The Helicopter Disaster. On July 23, 1982, at the final night of shooting for a Twilight Zone the movie segment, the crew was tired, the director was tired, the helicopter pilot, probably very tired. The scene was supposed to be simple. An actor named Vic Morrow carried two child actors out of a war zone while a helicopter chases them from above. Dramatic, action-packed, perfect for the big screen. There was just one tiny problem. Nobody told the helicopter and the explosions that they were supposed to be working together. So there's Vic Morrow, 7-year-old Micah, and 6-year-old Renee. The helicopter is circling at about 25 feet off the ground. The director, John Landis, yells for it to get lower. The pyrotechnicians set off their explosives. Boom! Except the helicopter's tail rotor decided that boom meant it was time to stop working. The tail rotor failed. The helicopter spun. Vic Morrow and the two kids were directly underneath it. The helicopter fell on them like a movie prop that nobody was supposed to catch. Vic and one of the kids were decapitated. The other child was crushed. All three died almost instantaneously. Their heads were found in the water by the crew members. This incident triggered the first criminal trial of a Hollywood director. John Landis faced involuntary manslaughter charges. He was ultimately acquitted, but the incident changed safety regulations in the entire industry. The racing tragedy. On November 30th, 2013, Paul Walker, the famous Fast and Furious actor, and his friend Roger Rodas left a charity event in Santa Clarita, California. Rodas was driving a red 2005 Porsche Carrera GT. They were in a 45-mile-per-hour speed zone. They were going between 80 and 93 miles per hour. That's nearly double the speed limit, in a car that was already a decade old, with tires that hadn't been maintained for optimal performance. The car hit a concrete lamppost, then it hit a tree. Then it caught fire. Within seconds, both men were dead. Their bodies were burned so badly that they had to be identified using dental records. On-set medical emergency. John Ritter was a television legend. Three's Company, 8 Simple Rules. On September 11, 2003, feeling very, very sick. Ritter was rehearsing on the Walt Disney Studio lot when he started complaining of chest pain, profuse sweating, and nausea. You know, casual Tuesday problems. His coworkers were like, hey, maybe go to the hospital. And Ritter, being a professional, was like, nah, I'm fine. Let's just finish rehearsing. He collapsed on the set and was rushed to the hospital. The doctors initially thought he was having a heart attack. He wasn't. He had aortic dissection, which is when your main artery basically decides to have an argument with itself and tears open from the inside. Surgery was performed. It didn't work. And John Ritter died at 10:48 p.m. that night at the age of 54. The Backstage Overdose. October 30th, 1993, River Phoenix arrived at the Viper Room, a nightclub on the Sunset Strip partially owned by Johnny Depp. He was with his brother Joaquin, his sister Rain, and his girlfriend. He was supposed to perform with the band that night. Everything was lined up to be perfect. Except River Phoenix had already started a drug binge that lasted 6 days. He had been consuming cocaine and heroin while barely sleeping. So when he showed up that night, he wasn't just tired, he was chemically transformed into a version of himself that nobody wanted to see. Phoenix went to the bathroom and started shaking so violently that people in the club began splashing him with cold water. A bouncer eventually escorted him out of the club. Outside on the sidewalk, Phoenix dropped to the ground and started having seizures, full-body convulsions. His brother Joaquin made a 911 call that became famous for its desperation. He's having seizures, get over here, please, he's dying. Rain, his sister, threw herself on top of him and tried mouth-to-mouth resuscitation while he thrashed around on the pavement. The paramedics arrived. They did CPR for over an hour. Nothing worked. River Phoenix died at 1:51 a.m. on October 31st, 1993, at 23 years old. The wildlife encounter. Before we get too deep into this one, let's talk about Steve Irwin, the crocodile hunter, the guy who wrestled crocodiles for a living and made it look like the most fun anyone could possibly have. He was likable. He was enthusiastic. He wore those signature khaki shorts like they were a superhero costume. And on September 4th, 2006, he went snorkeling at Bat Reef near Port Douglas, Australia. He was filming Ocean's Deadliest. What could go wrong? A stingray could go wrong. Specifically, a 2-meter stingray with a barb like a jagged sword. Here's the thing about stingrays. They're not typically aggressive. But this one was probably startled. So, the stingray did what stingrays do when they're scared. It struck, and struck, and struck again. The barb penetrated Irwin's chest, pierced his heart, and essentially made him bleed internally while everyone watched. The crew performed CPR for over an hour while transporting him to the nearest island. It didn't matter. He was already gone. Steve Irwin died doing what he loved, encountering wildlife in the most dangerous way possible, the catastrophic negligence. Alec Baldwin was filming Rust, a Western movie on a ranch near Santa Fe, New Mexico. On October 21, 2021, he was practicing a scene where he would draw a Colt .45 revolver from the holster and point it at the camera. He wasn't actually supposed to fire it. He was just supposed to draw it and say bang. That's it. So he did exactly that, except that the gun had a real bullet in it. And when Alec Baldwin pulled the trigger, it went off. Cinematographer Helena Hutchins was hit in the chest. Director Joel Souza was hit in the shoulder. Hutchinson's died. Souza survived. Here's the really fun part. The armorer on set, Hannah Gutierrez-Reed, had just finished her first movie before this one. She was inexperienced, and by all accounts, she didn't follow basic safety protocols. But somehow it was the gun that was the problem. Or maybe it was Alec Baldwin. The Russian Roulette Stunt. October 18, 1984, the set of Cover Up, a CBS spy series where Hexum played an undercover CIA operative masquerading as a male model. Hexum was 26 years old, young, energetic, ambitious, tired. The crew had been shooting all day and was finally wrapping up. The UPM announced that one more scene needs to be shot. Everyone groans internally. Hexum, being the class clown, decides to lighten the mood. He sits on a bed with a .44 Magnum revolver loaded with blanks and starts spinning the chamber. He's joking around with the assistant prop master, who's standing right there watching him. They're laughing. It's a prank. It's funny. He's just going to freak people out. He's going to point the gun at his temple, pull the trigger, and everyone will jump because it's loud. Classic John Eric humor. Except John Eric didn't understand one crucial detail about .44 Magnum blank cartridges. When a blank fires, it doesn't just make noise, it produces a powerful paper wad that travels at an incredible velocity. And when John Eric pulled that trigger with a gun pressed against his temple, that paper wad traveled straight into his skull and fractured it. Then it pushed bone fragments into his brain. He collapsed immediately. Hexum was rushed to the Century City Hospital. Surgery was performed. For 6 days, he was kept on life support while his family prayed and hoped. And then, on October 24, 1984, he was declared brain dead. The prop gun problem. Brandon Lee was filming The Crow on March 31, 1993 in Wilmington, North Carolina. It was supposed to be a routine scene. Someone fires a gun, you react, you fall down. That's it. Academy Award potential right there. Here's where it gets interesting. And by interesting, I mean horrifying. The prop gun that actor Michael Massey was holding was loaded with a blank. A blank. 0 bullets. Just air and dreams. Except someone at some point had left a real bullet fragment. Literally just the tip of a bullet lodged in the barrel of the gun. When Massey fired the gun, that fragment didn't just stay a fragment, it became a projectile. It traveled about 15 to 20 feet and hit Brandon Lee directly in the abdomen. Brandon Lee was taken to the hospital. He went into surgery. Everyone was hopeful. And then, he wasn't. He died hours later with a bullet lodged in his spine. Which one of these tragic on-set deaths shocked you the most? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you found this video interesting, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe for more amazing videos. I'll see you in the next one.